Over the years here on the 208, one of the most popular comments or text message we get is a simple reaction. I can't believe my tax dollars are being used for that. That could be a million things. But one of the places your tax dollars goes to is paying lawmakers. Idaho has a part-time legislature, so their pay is supposed to reflect that. Over the years, though, their pay has changed. Here's what it's looked like. We will pick up the story in the 1970s when there were talks to adjust legislative compensation, but those faced significant resistance. Voters repeatedly rejected increases, with the state's legislative pay ranking about 40th nationally for much of the decade. In 1970, Idaho voters turned down a proposal to raise compensation for the second time. The following year, the daily rate was set to $10, limited to 60 regular session days and 20 special session days. In that same year, a constitutional amendment, SJR 107, aimed to fix the annual salary at $5,500 plus $6 a day in per diem. But that failed too. Another proposal in 1972 wanted to raise the annual pay to $3,600 plus 10 cents per mile. That also failed. In 1976, there was a major proposal to create a Citizens Committee on Legislative Compensation. 3 members appointed by the governor, 3 by the Supreme Court. And that committee sets the standard to this day. In 1976, the daily rate remained $10, with $25 to $35 in expenses, though the total cost was estimated at $10,000 per day in terms of all the lawmakers being there. Salaries were capped at 60 days. In 1979, the Legislative Compensation Committee recommended increasing the annual salary from $3,000 to $4,200. However, the proposal was rejected in the Idaho Senate. The House initially voted to block the raise, but the resolution failed to get the necessary 2/3 majority by just 7 votes. Salaries remained relatively flat through the 1980s and 90s, ranging from about $12,000 to a little more than $15,000 annually. Per diem also gradually increased from the $40 to $75 range in the 1990s to about $50 to $130 by the 2010s, with different rates for daily commuters versus those outside of Ada County who have to have a second residence within the county for the session. In the 2010s, the commission recommended a 1% to 2% annual salary increase, bringing the base salary up to about $17,000 by 2018. Adjustments were also made to per diem rates and reimbursement policies over this time. As of 2024, lawmakers make about $20,000, with added per diems as well. All right, so here we are, 2024. Now, Idaho lawmakers are weighing if they should give themselves a raise. So, Idaho's Constitution, it very specifically outlines compensation for the members of the legislature. And basically what it says, the legislature has no power to establish their own pay, their own compensation, or their expenses. So a citizens committee is in charge of setting that rate. And lawmakers can ask for whatever they want. That actually happened this fall. But the committee gets to decide, and that committee pushed back. Take a look. Lawmaker leadership had proposed an average take-home pay increase of about $6,400, or about 43% in most cases with everything included, while also tying legislative compensation to a percentage of the average Idaho household income. And the proposal also included removing the session meal and per diem allowances. Well, the Citizens Committee, they said no. And we did hear from the people about why they thought the increase was too much. Solamita Rotante from American Action Fund argued a 40-some% increase is out of touch. And Nicholas Kleinworth, the policy director for the Idaho Freedom Foundation, echoed the same.
A 43% pay increase for legislators during a time of historic inflation is out of touch with what Idaho people want and the conservative values we hold true. Americans receive an average 3% pay increase annually. It is shocking that this proposal calls for legislators to receive 40% more than the average American does. This pay hike would make Idaho the highest paid part-time legislature in the United States.
The true increase of this raise is actually between 32 and 43%, which is far above the original claims in the letter. A recent analysis shows that Idaho's compensation rate is above average for a part-time legislature. Idaho is also at par with her neighbors in Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and North Dakota.
And that Citizens Committee agreed with those points, so they instead voted to raise the annual base salary for lawmakers from $19,913 to $25,000 for each of the next 2 years. It's an increase of about 25% over the current base pay. They also wanted to avoid moving per diem into the base salary. A committee member argued that would increase the cost to taxpayers without providing additional funds to the lawmakers. An interesting note, though, from testimony. Outgoing lawmaker and Senate Pro Tem Chuck Winder, a person who will not be serving beginning in January, he won't be getting a raise, he actually made a case for a larger increase.
The salary is so low that it doesn't attract particularly young families that can come and afford to work basically at that level. So I think there's some reason here.
It's a fair point. If you can't afford to go to the legislature, you likely won't run for office if you don't have independent wealth or a second job that comfortably lets you come and go. But the committee, for now, they didn't bite on the comments, and the committee's recommendation will now be forwarded to the entire Idaho legislature for consideration during the upcoming session. Lawmakers will have the final say on any changes to their own compensation. Within 25 days of the session, here's what they can do. They can lower the pay, or they can reject the whole thing and continue to be paid at the current rate. To be clear, no option for lawmakers to bump their own pay in this process.